So in a Science of Reading group, this was a question: is NG a digraph or a blend? And what I want you to think is about the question to start off with. Is the question showing that I'm taking a print to speech approach or a speech to print approach? A speech to print approach, I have found, is far more effective. So my question would be, as a speech to print advocate, that it depends on where it is in the word that we speak. So when we say the word ring, we say, what are the sounds? Ring, duck hands. Ring, there are three. Ring. So in this word, those two letters are together as a digraph representing the sound. There is no g sound in that. We don't say ring. And even if you do, that's just your dialect and what have you. But we're talking here not about how you necessarily speak. We're talking about how to teach reading and spelling. So we have to have a common base of what we understand. And generally speaking, we use the IPA because generally speaking, that's going to show us where the sounds are, the speech sounds in the word, the phonemes. So in this word, is NG a digraph? Yes, it is, because it's two letters together that represent that small speech sound, that smallest sound unit. And what confuses some people sometimes is that smallest sound unit isn't necessarily a nice clean one like or s or what have you. Sometimes there are different sounds, like for example in A, even if we just say the A sound, like in table, A is not the same at the beginning as at the end. If we say Q, it's my Q, then this grapheme here represents, think about the sounds that go from here, k, which is nice and simple, U. Think about all those changes, so it's not nice and simple. But in this word, it is nice and simple, ring. So there you go, there's your digraph. Is it a blend? This is a really worrying question for me. What's a blend? We're teaching children to blend, not a blend. And when children are taught blends, and what they mean here is like in the word frog, they mean that the child will see frog. Well, and an ST, stop. Anyway, and what children will do that I've worked with when they first come to me, I'll say, oh, give me the word frog without the and they'll say og. And that's because they think that is a sound, air quotes, a sound. It's not. There are two sounds there. You mean speech sounds. There are two speech sounds, og, frog, og, frog. There are two speech sounds. Why are you blending just these together instead of just all the four sounds? Og, frog. I tell you why. It's because some children with poor phonemic awareness struggle to put them together, and people will often go, what's the sound? Og, and the child can't hear it, so they'll go, oh, what's the sound? Frog, because they're trying to make it as close to the word as possible. They're trying to help, but actually what we need the children to do is to segment into the smallest units. But so I've just said to you about that. Is it a digraph? Now, some people would say, yep, look, that is definitely a digraph. No question about it. I teach, synthetic phonics, whatever. That is a representation for the sound and I'm not going to budge. Great, that's fine. What about when we come to seeing it in a word like this? Is it still your assertion that NG, when the children see an NG in a word, that's going to be Because if it is, that's the word hunger. Often, if they're not used to code mapping, be confused, because we're not confused because we code map, so we can show where the phonemes to graphemes map. But they can get confused because they can see a letter N and a letter G. So they see that N must represent something to do with N, like when they're doing nap. And they think the G must be something to do with the G, like when they see a word like giggle. But it doesn't, and yet that has nothing. That doesn't. When we say ring, we don't use the n, we don't use the g, and yet teachers will understand when I say, okay, this word. Why is it not up? Oh, because those together no longer are s or h. Now they're sh, Okay, so you understand that. You understand when these letters go together here in this diagram, in this grapheme, you understand that that is now representation for sh. So why don't you understand that that is now representation for hunger? It's not, it's hunger. We've still got that sound that we heard in ring, but now it's separated, hunger, because we're pronouncing we're pronouncing the g that's represented by the G. So here we didn't ring, there is no g. Here hunger, we do. So does the NG represent a digraph? No, it doesn't. The N represents the and the G represents the g. So the NG is not together there. That is probably what somebody would say is a blend. Hunger. And I see all sorts of weird stuff about it, and then they go into syllables and vowel sounds and all sorts of stuff. But just keep it really simple. If you go speech to print, then when the child is looking at the word, if they don't know the word, give them the sounds. They don't know that word, so go oh, okay, ring. Right, now let's look at it again, and let's see how it segments. What's that word? Oh, hunger. Okay, now let's look at the word. How does it segment? So we're using our lines and numbers. That's called code mapping. SSP code mapping. Okay, so is NG a digraph? Is the wrong question. Does NG in a word always represent one sound? Well, if it doesn't, does it? We've just seen just there. Or a blend. Now the problem is that some even synthetic phonics programs, which are supposed to be going to the smallest unit and mapping phonemes to graphemes, some synthetic phonics program put that together, and they'll say, I presume that's a blend, why? Rink. Nice and simple. Speech sounds to speech to print. Rink. Simple. Why are you putting those two together? So, like I said, you need to rephrase the question. So often when I see questions posed, I think it's not really about the answer. The reason she's asked that is because she's not sure of how to use the speech to print approach, or the fact that letters don't mean anything unless they are in words.